the Gulls are making some improvements here and there and actually winning some games and getting some points to close out the season. We'll talk about that on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason J.D. Hernandez. I've been covering minor league hockey for over a decade, also currently the public address announcer for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. And today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you've got to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Terms and conditions apply. As I've mentioned, I'm currently announcing for the Firebirds. And by the way, the Gulls are going to be coming here pretty soon, twice in the next week and a half. So just want to put that out there. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But for now, instead of talking about the games, I want to talk about kind of my big takeaway as far as the Gulls in the past week. And it's that there's market improvements. There's signs. There's good signs that the Gulls are making little improvements here and there. And there are signs that the young guys are looking pretty solid. What do I mean by that? Well, let's talk about some of the black aces that have come in for the San Diego Gulls, because there's quite a few of them. We've seen Jan Mysak. He's finally playing some games, so that's kind of nice. Niko Mijatovic, he's now been playing some games and looking pretty solid. Sam Colangelo. We got to talk about Sam Colangelo for a hot minute. In his limited time, he's already scoring multiple points. He's averaging, get this, Sam Colangelo has played in, I want to say 4 games now. He's averaging a point a game right now. This could be a steal for the Gulls if they can get him signed, if they can keep him long term. I don't know if he's going to crack the big club's roster, but I think there's a spot for him with the Gulls. There's absolutely a spot for him, and it would be that middle six. Look, he's very fast. His awareness is good. His defensive awareness has gotten better game by game. And also the discipline from him is looking pretty good recently. So I really like Sam Colangelo a whole lot. I think he's been one of the players that I've been very impressed with. He was super impressive in his debut at Pechanga Arena. He was very impressive Wednesday night, which I will talk about in a little bit. So, also Andrew Lucas. Andrew Lucas getting in there and getting some quality minutes. And, having some solid shifts here and there. And I did actually take the time to watch a little bit of Wednesday's game after this Firebirds game and saw some highlights. And I kind of liked what I saw from the young guys in general. And it's good to get them as much playing time as possible, especially now given that the Gulls are out of the playoffs. So I think it's important to get those young guys as many minutes as possible, just to see where they are organizationally. Where can they fit in long-term with the Ducks organization? Where can they fit in, where do they go next season in San Diego, assuming they stick around? Are we looking at guys that are going to be middle six? As far as other market improvements for the San Diego Gulls, they are doing something similar to what the Ducks are. And by that, I mean, the Gulls, for a while, they were playing super undisciplined like their big brother. And over the past few games, I've noticed that the Gulls are getting much more disciplined, not taking nearly as many dumb penalties as they were even last month. The last game against the Bakersfield Condors, they only had 1 penalty the entire game. 1 penalty, and that is it. And Bakersfield could have pissed them off. And Bakersfield is playing for something. They're playing for playoff positioning, whereas San Diego's out of it. But just the fact that we're seeing less opposing power plays is a good sign. The fact that the young guys are playing well is a good sign. So I look at micro improvements, and I cannot think about it in the big picture right now because they're already out of it. So much like the Ducks, I'm trying to find little signs, maybe not so much for hope, but maybe that the Gulls can build off of for next season. And there are signs here and there. So I like what I'm seeing from the young guys. I really like what I've seen from, Sasa Pastujov. Pastujov has come in like gangbusters, and he's someone that I think can be a top 6 player eventually in San Diego. I see him long term as kind of one of those tweener guys that he can get really hot really fast with San Diego and earn himself a few games in Anaheim. He's got the shot. He's got one of the better shots in the system. Speed has gotten better. I mean, he's not the fastest guy out there, but I mean, he's got incredible handles, great dangle, great shots. I look at the last few games where he's gotten goal, point. He's gotten points, and if my math is correct on this, he's got points in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 of his last 13 games that he's gotten at least 1 point, 4 goals in that stretch, including a stretch between March 27th and March 30th where he had goals in 3 consecutive games. And even the game last week at Pechanga against the Barracuda, he had an apple on that one. And even the last game against Bakersfield had a very good apple on that play as well. So all these good signs, I think, benefits the organization as a whole, and it reinforces the fact that this organization has some good young prospects, some good quality players, and in the micro, like when you think about like little things here and there, it's encouraging. It's very encouraging if you're a Ducks fan, and that's kind of the purpose of why I do these Gulls Thursday podcasts, is because, let's face it, the Ducks haven't been in the playoffs in a long time. You kind of have to hang your hat on the future a little bit. You have to hang your hat on, look at how good the prospects are. They're going to be good very soon. And mark my word, I believe the Gulls could make the playoffs next season if there are no injuries, if guys don't get called up like crazy. Then I could see them making a very strong case to be like possibly a top 5 team in the division next season, especially when you have teams like Calgary that is beginning to go downhill. San Jose, they've got hardly any good prospects anymore that's going to stay with the Barracuda. Most of them are either going to get traded or move up with the Sharks. So San Jose, I'm not worried about. Henderson, I'm not worried about either, because Vegas pretty much traded away all their good prospects, or, you know, they let them walk in favor of having a very good NHL team. Because that's kind of what the AHL is. It's a developmental league. So with that being said, San Diego can make some massive noise next year, and part of it is led by those guys that I mentioned. You know, Sam Colangelo, I think he could be very good. Chase DeLeo, big time player that when he's fully healthy, and there is reason to believe that there have been some games this season where he has not been 100% healthy, and that's okay. I mean, he's gone through multiple injuries over the past couple of seasons, and if he can have a summer with no injuries, have a full summer to get back into 100% playing shape, then he can make some noise next season as well. So that's a big part of it. All right, we're going to head into the first intermission and talk about the last few games in detail. We'll get to that on the other side. And now a brief word from Factor meals. And eat stress-free this spring with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meats or meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from a variety of 35 options, including popular options like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or Vegan and Veggie. Also, discover more than 60 add-ons every week, like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, snacks, and beverages to help you stay fueled and feel good all day long. Factor is your solution for fast, premium meals without the need for cooking. So head to factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 and use code LockedOnNHL50 to get half off your first box plus 20% off your next box. That's code LockedOnNHL50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 to get half off your first box and 20% off your next box while your subscription is active. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with Jason J.D. Hernandez. Let's talk about the last few games. I did talk a little bit about the game that I was at. And by the way, to the Gulls fans that I saw, thank you all so much. You're all so awesome. I'm kind of hoping to get back down there one more time before the season ends. Not going to make any promises, but if I can't make it down there for the final game, I hope to see a lot of you fans here at Acrisure Arena coming up, which I'll get to. But let's talk about the last few games. Obviously, the game against San Jose was at 6-5 shootout. I talked about that last week. The last few games, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the first Tucson game because San Diego just got blown out on this one. It was a 4-1 victory. Tucson played like a team that was super desperate because they were starting to lose some points in the standings, and they beat San Diego 4-1 last Saturday. Now, Sunday's game was kind of a really weird back and forth, and San Diego had their chances. They had some big moments early on where they could have blown the game open. It could have been 2-0, even 3-0 early on. Josh Lapina did score to make it 1-0 in the first, but there was plenty of good shot opportunities. They put pressure on Matty Villalta, who at times has been shaky this season. Matty Villalta has had some not-so-good games against San Diego. He's had some not-so-good games against the Ontario Reign. He's had a couple of stinkers against the Firebirds. So Villalta is a vulnerable goalie that has had, he's had his up and down moments this season in the AHL. So when I looked at that game, I was a little surprised that San Diego didn't score more in that game on Sunday. It could have really been 2-0 or 3-0, and the Gulls just could not take advantage. They couldn't. I mean, yeah, they had some decent shots up close. There was a really good opportunity by Sasha Pastujov that I thought Matty Villalta just stonewalled him and, prevented what I thought would be a sure goal. So Pasta looking good. I think Sasha had a couple opportunities there in the first period. And this might have been I think this was right after that goal was scored, because Josh Lapina scored and then San Diego had possession again in that next minute where Pasta and others were putting so much pressure on Matty Villalta. A little bit of puck luck. That was their opportunity to blow it open, and it just didn't happen. And when you're up against a good team like the Tucson Roadrunners, if you do not take advantage of those opportunities, it will eventually cost you. And they were also given opportunities later in the first period by getting 3 power plays. Yeah, the Gulls had 3 power plays in the first period and just could not convert on any of them. They had good opportunities. They had good shots. The puck was actually moved. There were times where it wasn't, but when you had the younger unit out there, when you had the unit with Sam Colangelo out there was better puck movement. There was more diagonal passing. And to get into a little bit more detail, one thing I did notice with that second unit is that there was more of a concerted effort to try to get passes in behind the net and look for someone in that high slot, or right along the faceoff dot, in the interior part of the faceoff dot. And then they had those chances and they just couldn't get it. So I like what I'm seeing from the special teams from San Diego. They just couldn't convert on it. And as soon as that period ended at 1-0, I even thought to myself, they just blew a golden opportunity. That could come back and bite him in the butt later on. And in fact, it did. Hunter Drew did score in the second period to make it 1-1. Then the third period happened. Andrew Agozzino scored to make it 2-1 San Diego from a nice pass from Sasha Pastujov. And the Gulls did what the Ducks sometimes do. They just hold the puck, don't do a whole lot with it, and try to protect a lead, which never works out. It never does. Former Coachella Valley Firebird, Austin Pagansky, he scored with about 5 minutes left to tie the game at 2. And the Gulls really shot themselves in the foot by committing a bad penalty at the end of the third period. Drew Helleson got caught tripping, so the Gulls were on the PK for the last minute and a half of regulation, and Tucson was getting their chances in that third period, but they couldn't convert on those. Yeah, imagine being Tucson, having that kind of opportunity and just not converting. Pagansky did have a last-second shot that could have gone in and didn't, so we had to overtime. And in that overtime, it was mostly Tucson with control, but great blocks by Tomasz Sukanik to keep it tied, and we headed to a shootout. And in that shootout, neither Tracy nor Pasta scored in the shootout. John Leonard and Akuratu scored on the shootout, so that's your final score. 3-2 on that game. But what about the game Wednesday night? Well, that was the Chase DeLeo and Andrew Agozzino show. They each had 2 goals in this one, and they came out like gangbusters. They came out and just kept pressing and pressing and pressing. I don't think Bakersfield knew what was coming to them. And I made a concerted effort to try to watch as much of those first few minutes as possible. And San Diego had the momentum. They had the energy. They were getting the better shots. Bakersfield, to be honest, they looked a little flat. They looked more flat than they should have, given that the Condors are fighting for a good playoff position. Right now, they are 6th in the Pacific Division, and they did not look it. San Diego had their number. Chase DeLeo scored, then Agozzino, then DeLeo again. It's 3-0 all of a sudden after a few minutes in the third, and you think, oh my God, like this game might be over. Now, Bako did score on a Cameron Wright goal towards the end of the first, so it was 3-1. But after that, the Gulls played a solid defensive game. They played a good, disciplined game. Again, only one penalty on their side the entire game, and that was a Jan Mishak holding penalty. That was it. And Agozzino did score an empty netter later on. Philip Broberg scored very late in the game for Bakersfield, and in a game that the Condors needed, they lost 4-2. One thing I do want to talk about for this particular game that I noticed was the puck movement by Sam Colangelo on this one. When I say what I'm going to say, it'll make sense. Some of the young guys, they're showing their high IQ. Their passes are with a purpose. Some of the younger guys right now, they're not just settling for a dump and chase every time, and they're not just conceding possession every time. No, they're actually playing very effective hockey, and like I said, like the passes have a purpose to them. By that, I mean it's like they have a great bounce pass in the perimeter. They have effective passes in the neutral zone. They're not just coughing up the puck when they cross the blue line like they were doing a lot a couple of months ago. So again, these little micro signs that I've liked seeing from the San Diego Gulls. So that's just kind of my takeaway on that. Once again, final score 4-2. And there's only a few games left for the San Diego Gulls. And I will talk about after the second intermission. Stay locked in. Now a brief word from Indeed. And when you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talent roster, you need Indeed. It's the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Finds top talent fast with Indeed's suite of personal hiring tools like matching, assessments, and virtual interviews. And candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search, according to U.S. Indeed data. Join over 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you got to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you're only paying for high-quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Once again, that's Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Welcome back to Locked On Gulls, which is under the umbrella of Locked On Anaheim Ducks and part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And once again, you're locked in with a very tired Jason Hernandez after we just saw the Coachella Valley Firebirds clinch the regular season Pacific Division title. So just want to get that out there. Congrats to the Firebirds on clinching the Pacific Division. Because they've clinched the Pacific, they have the first round bye. Their magic number to clinch the entire Western Conference is only 3. They only need 3 points to clinch the West. So some of these upcoming games for the Firebirds, they're not going to matter. They clinched. They have the first round bye. They don't need to win all of these next few games. They really only need to win one more game out of these next 5, and I would say it's a pretty safe assumption that they would get the number 1 record in the entire Western Conference. What does that mean for the San Diego Gulls? That means they could steal a game or 2 against the Firebirds. Here is the remainder of the schedule for San Diego. They play tomorrow night in Ontario. That is Ontario's season finale at home, Friday, April 12th. The Gulls at the Ontario Reign. That's a 7 o'clock start at Toyota Arena. Then the Gulls travel here to Coachella Valley, Acrisure Arena, Sunday, April 14th, which is Kraken night, by the way, to take on the Coachella Valley Firebirds. That's a 3 o'clock start. I hope to see some of you guys here. I know there's a couple of you. I'm not going to name names, but there's a couple of you that when I talked to you at Pechanga Arena last week, you said you would try to come out. So I'm not going to hold you to that, but you know who you are. So I hope to see a lot of you out here for those games. So that's on the 14th. Then to round out the schedule, Tuesday, April 16th and Wednesday, April 17th, they travel to Colorado to take on the Colorado Eagles. Then next Saturday and Sunday, a pair of games against the Firebirds. Saturday will be at Pechanga Arena. That's Saturday, April 20th. Firebirds at Gulls. That'll be the Gulls' final home game of the season. And then you have the Gulls here at Coachella Valley, Sunday, April 21st. So be on the lookout for all that. So yeah, 3 games. Yeah, San Diego could steal a game or 2, but it really won't matter. It won't matter. Either way, San Diego's out of it. Coachella's clinched. They're not, like, the Firebirds are not going to catch Hershey. Hershey is going to wind up with the best record in the American Hockey League. Their magic number is down to 3. The Firebirds, like I said, they just need 1 game out of their last 5 games. Yeah, the Firebirds are fine. So that's what is coming up. Final thoughts before we wrap up. Just want to give a sincere thank you to everyone that has written in, everyone that has supported over the years from the Gulls. You guys are amazing. I am hoping to come out to San Diego next Saturday one more time before the season ends, but it is going to be tough because it's a quick turnaround because I've got a game obviously the following morning here at Acrisure, having to be here around noon, so it is kind of a fast turnaround. And that's why I'm hoping to see as many of the Gulls fans as possible. So if you're watching, if you live in SoCal, and if you're a Gulls fan, come out here to Acrisure Arena. Let me know if you have my cell phone number, if you have my email. My email is lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. Just let me know if you're coming to town, and I'll see if I can say hi to you guys afterwards. All right, that's going to do it for this podcast. We will have another episode from Acrisure Arena later on. This is a doubleheader day. And there is a big topic that I do want to discuss on the next episode. But with that, we're going to say goodbye for now. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Don't forget this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, ad-free on Amazon, and we're also on YouTube, so make sure to hit that Locked On Ducks subscribe button. That way you won't miss an episode. And also, we got to talk about the Locked On Sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On plus our national shows covering every league, including the NHL. So be on the lookout for that. Once again, thank you all for your continued support. It is so greatly appreciated, and we'll be back with another episode live from Acrisure Arena. For Locked On Gulls, I'm Jason J.D. Hernandez saying have a great rest of the afternoon, and we'll see you later. Be sure to stay safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks and Gulls fly together.